Hey, distance learners, just wanted to give you a little bit of background information before you start your assignment for this week. It is going to be a little bit tougher. So today I'm going to go through how to read topographic maps and a little bit about them first before you start your assignment today. Tomorrow during our live lesson, I'm expecting you to have some questions and to ask some questions during our live lesson about topographic maps, how to read them. We're probably going to go over these together in person as well, just because they are kind of tricky. They're very strange and new. So that being said, let's dive right in. So topographic maps. This is where I'm going to have two definitions for you to write down in your vocabulary in your science notebook. You should have a couple terms in there already from what we've done. But a topographic map, that's your vocab word, shows the elevation and shape of the land. Your contour lines, another vocab word, contour lines, it's actually two words, imaginary lines that follow the surface of the mountain at an exact elevation. Now, if you need to pause the video to get that information down, go ahead and pause the video, and then you can hit resume when you're ready. But these are both used to show the height, meaning the elevation above sea level. So sea level is 0 feet in elevation, and then your elevation above that is just how high off the ground are you. So like I said, in Florida, if you're on the beach, you're at 0 feet. Minnesota's pretty low at like 1,000 to 2,000. But if you go into like the Rocky Mountains, you get up to 13,000 feet, 14,000 feet. And the way that they do these are with all these crazy squiggly lines over here. And these lines tell you, these are contour lines, they tell you what the exact elevation is. So if you were a human being walking along this squiggly line exactly on the real mountain, you wouldn't go up, you wouldn't go down, you would stay at that exact elevation the entire time. So you'd be flat. Now, there are a couple of rules about contour lines that we'll get into in a little bit. So like I said, each contour line is a specific elevation, a specific height above the ground. Some of the rules are lines will never cross and then they'll never branch out. They do always eventually end up touching each other. As you can kind of see here, there's a lot of round ones. You can tell that this mountain is getting taller and taller and taller as it gets towards the middle. Okay, so here we can see the contour interval. This is the change in elevation between contour lines. This again is another definition I want you to write down. So again, you can pause the video and write down contour interval, the change in elevation between contour lines. So here we see it goes from 220 meters to 240 meters. So all you have to ask yourself is, well, what's it counting by? Every time it goes up by the same amount. In our map here, it goes up by 20 meters every time. Now, sometimes though it gets tricky and not every line is marked. So here is a map that has, it tells us that it's 100 here and up here is 200, but it doesn't tell us where all these lines are in between. So you kind of have to do a little bit of figuring out. I always say start with what you know. All right, we know that this is 100 and we know that this is 200. And we know that they go up by the same amount each time. So I'm just going to try and pick a number and I'm going to see if it counts up by that amount. So I'm going to pick 25s because they're easy to count by. So 100, 125, 150, 175, that would make this line 200. So that's not right. So I got to make it a little bit less. So let's try a 20. 20 or 120, 140, 160, 180, 200. So you might have to do a little trial and error, but it does go up each time by the same amount. Now, you can tell a lot about a mountain based on its contour lines. So here we have a contour line or a contour map, excuse me, a topographic map with our contour lines on it. We can see on this side that the lines are really close together. This tells us that it's really steep. That's because they increase by 20 meters in a short amount of time versus 20 meters in a long amount of time. So you can kind of take a map and almost turn it on its side to kind of visualize what it would look like from the side, from a profile view, right? A side view of that landmark. So we can see that there are much more gentle lines here because they're more spread out. So we can see that that creates a more gentle slope. We can tell it has a peak because it's got one smaller, it goes smaller and smaller to one point. That's our highest peak. This one though is even higher up because there are more contour lines and they're all closer together at that one. Now, I'm going to have you start on your assignment. I know that that wasn't a huge, big, long explanation, but I think the more that you'll see, the more sense it'll make. Plus, then that's why we're going to go over this tomorrow. We're going to ask some questions in class tomorrow or on Friday during our live lesson. So your assignment looks like this. There are a little bit of details up here, again, about contour lines, elevation, and topographic maps. Where you see a red box, it's, again, a text box you can just type in. So again, just double click in the text box and enter your answer. So the first one has, each of these is breaking one of the contour line rules, and you just have to pick which one it's breaking. So you put 1, 2, 3, or 4 in all of these boxes here. On the second slide, we've got 4 different maps, and you have to describe which map matches with what. So again, just A through D in these boxes. Like which one has gentle slope on all the sides? Again, that one's going to not have a lot of lines close to each other because that means steep. So they're going to be kind of spread out, kind of low. So this one is kind of just like that last slide I just showed you, where you kind of match the profile, the side view, with the topographic map. So you're going to see, what are the lines telling you? And then lastly, here's a map with our contour intervals on here, and then the profile of that map as well. And it wants you to answer some questions that are just A or B. You know, how many feet of elevation are between the contour lines? So what's your contour interval? So some pretty basic questions. So anytime you see a red box, please make sure you fill that out. So I expect you to have questions on Friday, so please ask them. We'll go over it again together. I know that this is kind of tough, but at least give it a try before Friday. I will make this due Friday night, so if you do have questions, you can ask them in the live lesson, and then it'll be due Friday night. I will see you on Friday at 2 o'clock for sure. All right, bye-bye.